Hey, what's up, everybody? You're now watching part 2 of my amazing series of my interview with Sterling Wilder, City Councilman of Lynchburg, Virginia. Hope you enjoy. All right, so you were talking about the Sidewalk to Nowhere?
Yeah, so some of my challenges, there were two main issues lately the past year. One was the sidewalk to nowhere, and the second was about the Second Amendment. So first, in reference to the sidewalk, it was a sidewalk on Florida Avenue. It goes from Florida Avenue, Jubilee Drive to Gray Street. And it's been on the city books for about 15, 20 years or so. And I kept asking questions about neighbors are asking me about this in Ward 2. They want the sidewalk because it's so dangerous walking down like the KDC 1 or whatever, or walking from Florida Avenue to Gray Street. It's really challenging. It's a bad part. And we need a sidewalk there. So I did bring it up in one of my meetings for City Council, my subcommittee meetings, and we got it back on the agenda and got some funds reserved for that because it's been, like I said, for 20 years. And the original price was about $9 million. But when people say, oh my goodness, $9 million for a sidewalk. But again, you would take $7 million for a roundabout here and there and spend millions of dollars all over the city. Why can't we spend some millions of dollars in Ward 2 in primarily African American community?
Yeah.
So when you talk about the sidewalk to nowhere, to me, you're discounting all the hardworking people in Right Rock. They're discounting the people that live on Florida Avenue.
Yeah.
You're discounting those people when you say the sidewalk to nowhere. Like that life, basically you're telling me their life is going nowhere.
Yeah, like they have no value.
That's something that was so horrible when I heard that. So again, if you're not at that table and on a city council or not at that level, you don't have a voice.
Yeah.
So that's why for me, it is more important to be at the table when situations happen, when you want certain things in your community, whether it's a sidewalk, whether it's a paved street, whether it's your trash picked up. You need to have somebody there that's going to speak up for your best interests, not in the interests of others, but the best interests of your people and what's good for you, for your community. So originally the sidewalk was about $9 million. People complained about that, and they even said we need to use that money to give to like the fire department, things that for salaries. But again, the challenge with that, people did not understand those funds for the sidewalk are some bond funds. Half are from the state of Virginia, and some from federal government, and some from Lynchburg. So, for example, now we got a revised estimate that's going to be about $6.8 million. So about 3.2 is from the city of Lynchburg, 3.2 is from the state of Virginia, and the other portion is from the federal government. So those funds could not be used for salaries, for staff members, for recurring salaries of that nature, but it's more so a bond-funded program that you're going to fund over a period of time. So people had a misunderstanding about the cost. First of all, they would say $12 million. So it went from 9, where people start saying a $12 million sidewalk and various other things. And then they kept saying, why in that community?
Yeah.
Why on that block?
Yeah.
You know, so they just want to discount the people that live in Ward 2, that live around Florida Avenue. To me, the whole Florida Avenue should have been in an uproar. All the people in White Rock should have been in the uproar. When they heard that the sidewalk to nowhere, they should have been picketing. They should have been protesting. They should have been saying, how dare you say this is a sidewalk to nowhere. My kids live in this neighborhood. I live in this neighborhood.
Yeah, but you're seeing, you know what's crazy is we live in a time now where I believe they call it underlying racism. And just being a young African-American male, it's just me hearing that, and I don't live in that community. It would make me think like, well, if the vision of Lynchburg, you know, you see the signs and, you know, you see Boonesboro and you see how different communities thrive. But what would you say like about the kids? You know, what would you say about the young adults that have a future? Because I actually worked at TriTech, now known as KDC 1, and it's very dangerous. I mean, when you're seeing people and you're seeing kids and, you know, you're trying to swerve around them.
Right.
And like you said, that goes through Gray Street, like where the bridge is, almost downtown, where there's nowhere for them to walk.
Right. It's a horrible when people, I've seen people with strollers. I saw one man in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
You know, so, and you want to pick up people, but again, because it's such a bad curve, it's challenging. Unless you can pull over safely, it's challenging. But another issue, not only is a main thoroughfare in our community, a main thoroughfare to downtown, is really one of the gateways to our city.
Yep.
You know, when you come down from 460, a lot of people take Florida Avenue
You have to
to
cut
get to
down.
Main Street. So it's a gateway to our city. Hardworking, tax-paying people
Yeah.
live on Florida Avenue in White Rock. They live right there in the community. And then you have KDC1, which is a multi-million-dollar corporation.
Yep.
So again, it's an investment in our community, and it's an investment in the lives of people, taking their lives in their own hand, walking on that dangerous side, on that dangerous street with no sidewalk.
Yeah, so I would just encourage all of my followers that live in Lynchburg, you know, everybody that's in Lynchburg under the sound of my voice, that you have someone that has a seat at the table, Sterling Wilder, and, you know, I believe that you can get it done, because some of these issues are issues that I believe are talked about, but no one really knows, okay, how do we get a voice? How do we, you know, make sure that we're being heard? And now you have someone that's bringing up these issues. So this is an issue that's been going on for years, and Sterling has been working on it behind the actual scene. So, you know, I think there's always a misconception that someone can always do more. You know, if someone scores 50 points in the game, yeah, they could have scored 51, 52. You know, if someone, you know, raises 10,000, they could have raised 20.
Yeah.
But the fact is that just know that Sterling Wilder is a person of his word, and he's actually fighting the battle, fighting the good fight behind the scenes in this November, maybe.
Yep. But right now, the election is scheduled for May the 5th, but the General Assembly comes back on April the 22nd.
Gotcha.
Because the governor is recommending to move it to November because of the pandemic that's going on currently.
Gotcha.
So we'll know for sure when the election is going to be, whether it's going to be May, whether it'll be moved to June,
Okay.
whether it's going to be moved to November.
Gotcha.
So we won't know anything until April the 22nd, but we know it's going to be an election at some point this year.
Yeah.
So it's so important for persons that your voice is going to be your vote. And if you don't vote, that one vote makes a difference.
Yeah.
More than anything else, that one vote is that can bring the backs of the enemies that have been attacking us for years.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have the right to vote.
Yeah.
I remember I was on the Oprah Winfrey show about like 20 years ago now this year, and she talked about the time that I was there was during an election year. And I was there on a Monday, and the next day was election, and she was saying that she talked about a gentleman in, I think, Louisiana or somewhere in Mississippi or somewhere, where the man was like in his 80s, of the nature, and he had walked like a mile or two just so he could vote. And when he got to that precinct, they said, "Oh, you can't vote here. You're not registered here. You got to go to another precinct, which is 7 miles away."
Oh,
so he
wow.
walked 7 miles away, and when he got there, like at 7 o'clock, the voting precinct had closed. So he never got a chance to vote. That next year, he died before he could even vote.
Wow.
You know, and Oprah was saying how every time she votes in his memory. You know, and we got to think, you know, Jennifer Petticolas did a play recently at for the Lynchburg Museum, and it was talking about all those forefighters that came before us that gave their lives just so we can have the Voting Right Act, just so we can have get rid of poll tax and voting tax and things of that nature, so we can all have the right to vote. People that made it equal so we could vote,
Yeah.
that gave their lives from the civil rights movement to various other organizations, NAACP that worked hard, SCLC that worked hard so we can have our vote to vote. And a lot of times we'll sit at home during the election time period.
Yeah.
So we as a people, we have got to be active. We have got to vote. You know, a situation, another quick thing that I had a challenge with when we get to like the Second Amendment situation, and that happened last year as well. When everything was happening, when I was losing my sister, that came up, and that was probably one of the most challenging issues that I have been on since I've been on city council.
Yeah,
was
it's been a huge
the Second
issue,
Amendment.
yeah.
You know, but the thing was, sometimes the narrative gets changed.
Got you.
And I was talking to people in the community, and a guy that grew up around the corner from me. We've known each other since we were 5, you know. And I asked him to sign my petition. He said, "Oh, I shouldn't sign this because you were against the Second Amendment." You know, and I think there's such a misconception about that. Again, number one, I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe in all of them. 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment. I believe in all of them. That's when it comes to voting, especially when it comes to holding people back because of their race, because of the color of their skin, or because you're a woman. You know, certain amendments are protecting us. So I think it's important. So I believe in all the amendments. I believe if you have the right to bear arms, if you want a gun or a pistol or thing of nature to protect yourself and your house, I believe in that. But they want to make it a narrative that we were, because we voted against that Second Amendment sanctuary city, that we were against gun owners.
Now, can you explain what the Second Amendment sanctuary city is?
And basically what happened was, because the governor of Northam had presented certain legislations that would put better common sense gun laws in place. But anytime, I have realized now, anytime you talk about guns or putting restrictions on gun ownership, you're going to have a fight.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that until then, until all the things happened. You see about the situation in Florida where all about 20-some kids got killed in the high school in Florida. And then we saw a strong movement of people talking about that and talking against certain gun owners and talking against certain people having weapons. So you get more things of that nature. But when you get, I was trying to figure out, why is it so challenging to have gun rights, responsible gun rights?
Yeah.
But when it came to Virginia piece, I realized how much people like owning their guns.
Yeah.
I realized how people drew a line, don't mess with my guns. So I understand that even better.
Yeah.
But again, I have no problem with people owning guns.
You
but
just want common sense gun.
Right. Yeah, and the thing about the sanctuary city was that basically people were saying, we are against the governor. We don't want you messing with any of our rights. So we're going to have the sanctuary city to go and say, a certain number of cities have called themselves as sanctuary cities, that we're saying we're not going to follow what the governor is ordering. They're going to rebuke it, and we're not going to follow it. So I'm making a statement that even though it has no legal right, it has no sense because the state law precedes it. The state law is overcharged. What you say you're going to do in your city, the state law is the final word. So you have to follow the state law.
Yeah.
So basically, we're saying our sheriff's department, we got to be disobedient to what the governor is saying. And also the thing for me was that it was a state issue, not a local city issue. My vote would not make a difference. So even if you look at all those cities and counties that voted for the sanctuary city, it did not make a difference when it came down to the Virginia General Assembly. They still passed most of those gun rights, those gun amendments. And basically there were things like you couldn't, for example, if you were a convicted felon, have certain background checks, or if you have children in your home, to make sure your guns are in a safe place. So to me, there was some common sense things
happening. It's just being a responsible gun owner.
Right, and honestly, we had an event at EC Glass, had about 1,000 people there. I'll tell you, of those 1,000 people, none of those laws would restrict them.
Gotcha.
There was one that said you can have a certain number of guns a month. So that one might have, but the majority of them, they were law-abiding citizens. They keep their guns locked up. They have their guns in the houses that they want. They're not felons. So the majority of the people, none of those issues that the governor stated, honestly, none of them would affect them.
So it's safe to say a high percentage of gun owners now, if you're already responsible and haven't committed a crime, you really won't be affected.
Basically, and again, I didn't write the law, but basically, from reading it in a nutshell, basically, it's only affecting those who have criminal acts, or for example, if somebody has a protective, if it's a spouse and a couple of the spouses have some challenges, and the one of the spouses have a protective order against the other spouse. And that spouse is considered to be a danger to them, then they might take that gun away because it's considered to be a danger.
Gotcha.
And I saw a situation about 2 weeks ago, a month ago, where a lady had a protective order against her husband. He went and killed her. So we need to have certain common sense things. Again, I'm not at the state legislature. I'm not writing the law. Again, it was a state issue that we were talking about, not a local issue. And then if we were saying we're going to support it, we're telling our sheriff's department, don't follow what the governor is saying to do. And I didn't feel that was right.
Gotcha. Okay. So I think those are two big key points that I think people can get behind you and actually learn. So, I appreciate you actually breaking that down for our viewers and our followers. Because I knew nothing about that. I knew that there should have been a sidewalk down there, but it's something that you really don't think about, and it's something that I didn't know that was being fought behind closed doors.
And the sad part about it was those issues like the sidewalk or about the Second Amendment is where persons who were against that are using that to put me out of office.
Gotcha.
So we had certain groups that have said, I'm going to put you, Mary Jane Dolan, who voted against it as well. We're going to make sure that you and Mary Jane Dolan do not get reelected.
Gotcha.
So they have made a vow against us for standing up for what we believe was right. They have made a vow to make sure we're not reelected on city council.
Wow.
So you got several people who are fighting against us because of that particular reason. So I even looked at some of the donations that come in for the campaign. I'm not receiving any of the donations for this campaign, but I looked at some of the other persons that are running, and the money is, as not one person from Ward 2 has donated to my opponent's campaign.
Gotcha.
It's all money from outside of the area. So we got to ask ourselves the question about other people trying to fund us, other people are trying to redirect the voters of Ward 2. And we in Ward 2, we have got to wake up. Ward 2 in the city of Lynchburg was primarily has been a strong African American community. We have civil rights leaders like N.W. Thornhill, CWC, Julius Haskins, Caesar Johnson, Carl Hutchison. All those great people have lived or been a part of, worked in Ward 2 for years, and they helped make and shape the citizens of Lynchburg as far as for African American community and being that voice at the table. But now you have people that want to consider them as left-wing political people that have their own agenda or that's not making a difference or they want to say that even the community is even worse because of them.
Wow.
Can you imagine what would have happened if we didn't have a Carl Hutchison's voice? Or if we didn't have a Caesar Johnson's voice, or if we didn't have a Ed Barksdale's voice on city council for or N.W. Thornhill, people that bled and continued to work for justice to make sure we had a seat that I can even get into a table, that I can even get into the door because of people like that. But then you have people that want to discount them and say the prior leadership in Ward 2, we don't need that anymore. We're speaking up for the people. We're speaking up for what's right. We're speaking up for making sure we have a voice and that our voice is heard loud and clear. But again, you have people that want to take that voice back and say, we don't want your voice at the table. We want somebody that we can control because we don't want you to build a sidewalk. Yeah. We don't want you to give money to schools. We don't want the schools, they say the schools are failing. The schools are this, the schools are that. One report I saw was saying that we're making Lynchburg into a Detroit. You know, they want to discount us and put us in a whole nother category. Lynchburg is one of the most well-managed cities. We have a superb bond rating. So when I look at the bond rating, the management of our city, the growth of our city before pandemic, the growth of our city, I'm excited about our future. I'm excited about what's going on in Lynchburg. I'm excited about the leadership we have from the city manager to the other great city staff members and employees that we have to work hard. We have a finance director, a budget director that I believe in, that I have strong faith in. You know, so anytime we want to discount them or discount our city, we're discounting the work of hardworking people in our community.
Thank you for watching part 2 of my 3-part series with our interview with Lynchburg City Councilman Sterling Wilder. Tune in tomorrow night to watch part 3 live on Facebook. One love. Be blessed.